So I have the pleasure of introducing the next award, which is the Service Award, which recognizes alumni of outstanding character who have demonstrated exceptional and sustained loyalty to Drew by making significant contributions to furthering the university's mission and goals. Our recipient, Forrest Shue, class of 1987, could not be more deserving. Thank you, Bob Duffy, for submitting his name, because you are correct. Forrest overcame reluctance to attend his father's alma mater, only to become a successful computer science major and physics minor who was active in student government and ran cross-country. His career is in computer consulting, and today he advises pharmaceutical manufacturers. Over the years, Forrest has participated in many on-campus events for both computer science students and business-oriented students. He looks for ways to pull the business and technology discussions together, and this ultimately led to a role as an adjunct instructor. He's now in his 9th year of teaching a business and technology course at Drew. Eventually, he also accepted a 3-year appointment as alumni chair of the Drew Society, and he liked it so much that he's now in his 8th year. And this is just service to Drew. He also goes on home building trips for Methodist-based Appalachia Service Project and Habitat for Humanity, and engages in church-based youth group activities. It's my honor to congratulate Forrest Shue in receiving the Service Award.
Thanks very much, and thanks especially to Bob. It was great to get a call from Bob about this a couple months ago. It was a huge surprise. But a lot of things have been a huge surprise related to Drew. Laura mentioned the first one was I did not want to come to Drew at all because my dad came here for 7 years, not because he was a terrible student, but because he came for 4 years as an undergrad and then 3 years in seminary. And so I wanted to go someplace else, but ended up here just based on scholarship and coming on campus and seeing how great it was. But then one really critical thing happened early, and it was still in high school. And I can remember it was like maybe a week before graduation, right around this time of the year, I got a letter from Drew about summer orientation. And I was a very anxious student. I'm still at times a very anxious person. But then in particular, I was an excellent student, good cross-country runner, but not good socially. And so I took the summer orientation thing. It didn't say mandatory anywhere on the envelope. And so I took it and I kind of hid it away. It was like the week after graduation from high school. I couldn't get my head around having to interact with that many people from a new experience that I thought I had 3 months before I had to worry about. And my dad's friend and former teacher in seminary, the Reverend James Payne, many of you might know, just happened to call my dad around the time of my graduation from high school and said, what summer orientation session is Forrest going to? And my dad said, well, I don't know anything about summer orientation. And he came to me and I was like, oh, I might have seen something about that. And so I ended up having to go. And what ended up happening was I met John McAndrew, who became one of my best friends at Drew, and through him met Tim, who's standing right there, and Gavin and Andre and Larry, and I also met Lori Quinn, who was on the field hockey team, and then there was other girls on the field hockey like Tina and Peggy and Liz, who became my freshman year friends that were like the much needed social support that somebody like me, that sort of anxious, great student, but not great, ready for college person was. The other weird thing about that was I had such a great time at Summer OC that I applied to be on it the next year, got accepted, and for the next 3 summers did summer orientation for every incoming class, which means you get to meet everybody. Among that, and with that, came all those other things I did at Drew, which was obviously for me a fantastic experience and why I continue to participate whenever. And in fact, when I see an email from Carol, I just say, okay, whatever it is, I'm like, all right, I'll do it. The other huge thing was a couple of years after college, I found myself, not professionally, but sort of socially floundering again. Like, you're 25, 26-year-old, I'm like Jason, it took me more than 5 years to find the love of my life and have a family. It took almost 20. So those early years were a little bit rough in terms of like what was I doing other than working. And Jeff was the youth minister in Morristown, and he kept pestering me with little envelopes that would come in the mail, be like, hey, come to this volleyball event, or come to this. None of them worked. And eventually in 1992, he just called me and said, look, I need help with the junior high youth fellowship. And I was like, let me get this straight. You want me to come do youth fellowship for middle school kids? And I'm a 27-year-old guy, and so for some reason he got me to say yes. And then the next summer he's like, okay, look, I know that you like have these vacations where you go running with the bulls in Pamplona and do all this fun stuff, but next year I want you to go build houses in Virginia in the beating sun like you're experiencing now out there. And somehow again I said yes, and the weird thing about that was I kept saying yes to that trip for 16 years in a row. So the great thing about those was like Drew, even after Drew, I kept getting pulled into service stuff. And I feel like now, like when Judy and I had kids, I was 44 and 46 when they were born. And I always, like there was a part of me that felt like they don't know the cross-country star from Drew that could run 5 miles in 26.5 minutes. Like, even if I tell them and remind them of that, like 7 times a year, they're not gonna see it in me. And they also, even though Judy got to experience twice that Appalachia service project, and it became a part of our lives together, the kids haven't seen that. And so when this happened, I was really thankful to Drew that this would happen and they would get to see this. And Drew continues to be a big part of my life. Still think it might maybe someday be a part of Vivian's life. I don't think so for Forrest, but it's a real honor. It's great actually to see Tim there. I saw him walking back to it's almost like deja vu 35 years later to see him walk towards a drink tent and back and grab something. So I feel like it's a good memory. So thanks very much.